Good morning, everybody. It is a brand new day, and you know what that means. Another Callous, another draft, another duel. Here, we've got Zokuru, the Snail Lord. Oh, I'm sorry, the Stall Lord, as player one on the left. He is the red player, my bud, the Frenchman. And on the right-hand side, we didn't get to see this gentleman on YouTube, but man, did he draft and play well and looked really impressive and strong in round one. It is SPFunkM, who I'm probably just going to refer to as Funk to make it easier for everybody throughout the video. So Zokuru, in the player one position, is going to have the first ban, and he's going to opt to take out Metagross, which has not been banned a ton, but people are starting to catch on and ban it in the later rounds of this tournament. It has been a very common early or even first pick when it does make it through bans, but that will not be the case in this particular draft. Funk is going to come back with Tyranitar, another very common ban. Not a universal ban, but a very common ban, and it's easy to see why. Very threatening, very diverse Pokemon. Yeah, takes it out of the pool. Zokuru wants Snorlax to not be there either. Makes sense to me. Again, another very common and sometimes even first pick, but early round pick throughout the tournament. Hasn't gotten banned a ton, but is picked very, very early when it is available. But we're living in the twilight zone here, because this is going to be the second draft in a row where Zokuru's opponent has allowed Skarmory through to Zokuru, despite him being the self-proclaimed Stall Lord, and Skarm being like universally banned in this. His opponent is gonna let him have it, which I don't know how Zokuru has found himself in a position twice in a row where he can just first pick Skarm. But that is what happens here. It's going to be a Swampert ban, which I think is very unusual. Of all the things there, like I said, Skarm jumps out immediately, but you've got Aerodactyl, Gengar, Meta, various other choices, Salamence, Celebi, Blissey. I don't know about banning Swampert over that stuff, but in doing so, he just hands Zokuru his beloved Skarmory, which he's surely going to take in this position, right? No. We really are in the twilight zone. Someone offered up Zokuru the first pick Skarm, and he didn't take it. So it's a weird world that we live in. The Stall Lord, quote, quote, is going to take Raikou. Granted, defensive Raikou exists. It could be, Rest Talk or some defensive set with Roar. You could run Raikou on a stall team, but come on. It's not as stally as Skarm. Zokuru passing up on Skarm boggles my mind. That can't be possible. It just can't. It must be a misclick. He must have assumed it was banned. But it wasn't, and Raikou's fine and well, but that's going to allow his opponent as player 2 to round 1 Skarmory, which I don't know how often that's happened or is ever going to happen. That seems pretty crazy to me, but Skarmory Salamence retaliation here, that's a hell of a round 1 pick for player 2. Very, very surprised both that Skarm was not banned, and even more so that Zokuru didn't take it. Not that I hate the Raikou pick, not that I oh man, you gotta pick Skarm, anything other than Skarm is wrong. I don't know that I necessarily feel that way. I just thought that Zokuru, of all people, the Stall Lord, would for sure take Skarmory. But he's turned over a new leaf. He's bored of stalling. He wants to be the offense lord, the aggro lord. Yeah, so Raikou it is, I guess. And he's now going to opt for Aerodactyl, arguably the best thing still available. And then Blissey, which is not only a very powerful mon, but you also want to protect your Raikou. And you also don't want to give your opponent the Skarm Bliss combo. So a mixture of something good for me and a little bit of protection that I don't want you to have. I'm cool with taking the Blissey here. However, again, in doing so, it's letting really powerful stuff that would not normally be there come back for Funk. He's going to take Celebi. This is about right for Celebi. You could argue it's a smidge late, but this is really late. Zapdos as player 2 in the second round of picks. Again, this is a Pokemon that has commonly been overall first picked. Having it available this crazy late, pretty wild, I think. And Funk, as player 2, has got to be thrilled to somehow have both Skarmory and Zapdos. Probably the first time in this tournament that player 2 has had those two Mons, and yeah, not realistic, doesn't happen often. Gotta be pretty happy with the fact that it did happen. So the retaliation for Zokuru, he's going to go with Gengar and what I would consider probably a smidge early of a Moltres, but I can see why he's making that pick. He sees Skarm and Selby on the other side. Firemons in general are going to be good. Don't know that it had to be Moltres. I think Zard is fine, and down the road you could pick up a Houndoom or an Arcanine or what have you. But if the one that he views as the best of the bunch, just in an open field where no fires have been taken, if he views the best one as being Moltres, fair enough. And of note, he does not opt for the Milotic pick, which I think is even more premium here. Not only is there Salamence on the other side, but also Swampert is removed, so Milotic is probably the best bulky water here, if it wasn't already, but doesn't seem to be a priority for him, and we'll see if Funk, if he doesn't just take it here, and if Zokuru doesn't take it here, we'll see if it makes it to bans, if Funk just bans it out, which I think is a very realistic thing that he might do. Funk is going to take the other Firebird on the swing back, so I guess we're going to divvy him up. Fine, you want Moltres, I'll take Charizard. And then he's also going to take with that Starmie. So as I've discussed in every video, we've had very mixed and polarized opinions on whether players prefer Starmie or Fortress in this format. They function differently. The common denominator is spin, but because there are so few spinners, and because they're at such a premium, they're just forever going to be compared, even though they're very different Mons. I don't know what the answer is. I might slightly lean Fortress, but they function so differently, and they go on different squads that I don't know that there's a great way to directly compare them, other than with a bigger sample size than what we've got right now. Maybe we could start looking at win rate, but there's still a lot of things that factor into that. Over time, I think a more clear consensus will develop, but right now we have very split opinions. When you have the option of both, which one do you take? I've seen players already a number of times go both ways. Funk is going to prefer Starmie, and that's fine. It's a good Mon. Weird picks here coming from Zoc. So Regice, no problem. Down with that. For sure, my secondary pick here would be Milotic or Fortress. I think those are definitely two of the better options available. But he is going to go a completely different way. This is very, very early as far as I'm concerned. He's going to grab Porygon too, and I think it's just super duper unlikely that Funk was about to ban that out and or take it with his upcoming double pick in round 2. I don't understand the point of Porygon 2. It's a good Mon. It's generically good. It's a good wall. It's like a bulky water. Trace is a good ability. Maybe a little Dugtrio protection down the line if he thinks that Dugtrio is going to get grabbed to try to eat Raikou. I don't dislike Porygon 2. I think it's fine. But I think you can get it in like late round 2 at the earliest. You can even probably get it in round 3 a lot without issue. And I certainly don't think that it was about to be picked or banned by Funk. So I think if Zokuru ends up losing out on like Fortress or Claydol or Milotic or whatever, for the fact that he took Porygon 2, I think that it's very easy to go back and second guess this particular pick. I don't know about the P2. Don't think I like or agree with that particular pick. So the bans with Funk, quite a few options here, and he's got a strategy. He's going to remove Claydol here. Seems to be trying to monopolize the good spinners. He's got the Starmie, takes the doll out of play. Fair enough. Interesting, since he's the double picker, that he doesn't want to take the Claydol. It's decent against the Raikou Aero Drafter, and it's okay against Gar as well, so I wouldn't mind him grabbing that. But he must have his mind on something else, and that's fine. Doesn't want Zoc to have it. Out it goes. This makes the P2 pick even weirder, I think, if you're Zokuru. He's just going to ban out Dugtrio. Why didn't you just do that? Why do you need P2? If you're just going to get rid of Doug, if you were afraid of Doug, just ban it. Why do you need Porygon 2? So that makes that pick that I thought was already really questionable. Again, I think it should have just been like Fori or Milo. Makes it weird to me now that he took the Porygon 2 even more so than it was before, if he's just going to ban Dugtrio anyway. So, unusual, not cohesive in my opinion, but we'll see how Zokuru wants to proceed. Magneton is a pretty specific ban. He's the Skarm drafter, so I mean, the bolt beam resistance is nice. Mag is decent and underrated in this. That's all fine and well, but ultimately, he's got a Skarmory. He doesn't want his opponent to get Magneton. It really is as simple as that. So that is a direct protection pick for something that he has, and he might view it as one of his most valuable pieces, as it probably is, and therefore Magneton is gone. And then Zokuru is going to, with all fighters on the table here, the one that he least wants to play against in a format where people think Heracross is a monster, where Hariyama is good, where I think Medicham is really, really good. The one that he least wants to deal with is Breloom. Fighters in general are going to be a threat when you've got P2 Regice Blissey. Would not surprise me at all to see Funk take multiple fighters in this upcoming round. I think that would be wise given the amount of fighting weaknesses on the other side. But Spore is a pretty busted move, so the one that Zokuru least wants to deal with is Breloom. And yeah, now he won't deal with it. It's gone. So let's see what Funk has in mind. He does not ban out Milotic. Does he want to take Milotic here? He sees it a different way, and he's going to do something that has been kind of the flavor of the month tactic of this round. We've seen multiple players do this, which is to take both Regis at once. He's going to grab both Registeel and Regirock here, all in one fell swoop. So in doing so, he picks up a special wall in Registeel. Either Celebi or Zapdos can function as a special wall if he needs it to. But two of the really good ones, Blissey and Regice, are on the other side. So I think taking Registeel here and having a proper special wall is a good pick. And keep in mind that another good special wall, Umbreon, is still floating in the breeze here against a Gengar drafter. So that might be worth a pick down the road. And then Regirock, obviously decent against Aerodactyl, a threat against Moltres, a threat against Regice. It's good here. Could it be a smidge early? Do I like it better than Fori Milo? Debatable, but I do like Regirock, and it does make sense into Zokuru's draft, so I'm not inherently opposed to these picks. This is surprising to me in that it's still available. He grabs the Milotic now, which is like a no-brainer. I'm just surprised that he either didn't grab it a smidge earlier or more so that Funk didn't ban it out. But this is certainly later than most people have access to Milotic, and these are obviously good picks for Zokuru, grabbing Milotic Flygon here. Flygon good against both the Regis that were just taken, generic good Mon, a Rock Resist where he desperately needs one. He's got the 3 Rock weeks right now with nothing close to a Resist prior to this Flygon pickup. And a couple of the better Rock Resists already banned out here in Swampert Doll and even Magneton. So I think the Flygon probably a necessary pick. General good Mon in the format, but I think he needs to continue looking at those, whether it's Hariyama or Steelix or whatever. I think he's going to need more Rock Resist down the road, and we'll see how much of a priority he decides to make that. So Funk on the other end, taking a fighter, which I think is wise. I would even really consider double fighter or fighter plus Umbreon here. But he's going to go a different way with the second pick. He's going to opt for Jolteon. Interesting, fine. Again, not the world's most Milo vulnerable draft, but like it's totally acceptable here. I think I said Milo. I meant Jolteon. It's good into Milo is where I was going with it. It's okay against like Flygon, threaten it with HP Ice. You can outspeed Gengar, threaten it, hit it with T-Wave, whatever. It's a decent wall against Raikou because obviously you Volt Absorb and then Hidden Power, whatever, you can take reasonably well. Can outspeed it, threaten it with Wave, you can roar it out. I'm fine with Jolteon. I like it better than most. Zoc's team is like neutral-ish. It's not the world's most Jolteon weak or the most Jolteon padded that I've ever seen. Obviously, Jolteon is walled by Blissey and Regice, but it's a threat. Threat to Molt, threat to Milo, threat to Flygon. General annoying wall against Electrics. Fine with the Jolteon, but I still, if I'm Funk, would be really considering fighters and Umbreon down the road. Zoc is going to go a totally different way here. He's going to turn on the gas and get that aggro going as he takes both Jinx and Dragonite here, noting that since Dragonite is a Dragon Dancer, of course, noting that the other big Dragon Dancer, Gyarados, is somehow still out there and has been ignored by both players, which I find unusual. It's going to be even if it's taken now, this is going to be a later than normal Gyarados, and I think both players are undervaluing it. But yeah, I'm okay with the Jinx. Seems like a general threat against Funk. Obviously, against men, Zapdos, Celebi, you can just hit it super effective. It's faster than a lot of the formats, Sleep moves in general. Not that Lovely Kiss is as reliable as Spore, but Sleep moves in general are just very strong. And so far, too early to really know, but so far in this tournament, Jinx has been a solid performer. So if that continues, perhaps we will continue to see it picked a little bit more closely to where we are right now, which is mid-second round, rather than someone just like randomly picking it as their second or third to last Mon, which is what we've seen up to this point. And you guys know my D-Knight speech. Huge fan. Also gives him a second heal bell if that's something that he's going to value. It could be a sweeper, it could be a mixed threat, it could be a defensive Mon. It does it all. Knight of all trades. D-Knight is the man and should be picked in every single one of these drafts, in my opinion. On the other side, don't know that I can agree with these picks. With Fortress still available, which I think is clearly superior, he instead is going to opt for Cloyster. Like I said, don't think I personally agree with that. And then he's going to grab Blaziken as well. Cloyster's a fine Mon. Spikers are good. Spiker Spinners are good. I don't think Cloyster's better than Fori. And quite surprised that that Mon is still hanging out there and hasn't been snatched up and or banned by one guy or the other. The Blaziken I'm okay with. Fire types in general are going to be reasonable against a guy with Regice, but he has padded it pretty well. He does have the Fire Resist in Moltres, which is a pretty solid counter to Blaziken as a whole. You really, I mean, you could Rock Slide it, you can Thunder Punch, but if you don't specifically tailor to have those things, then obviously both your Fire and your Fighting Stab don't do a lot to Moltres. Moltres is going to wall it. Milotic is going to wall it. D-Knight can survive whatever you throw at it and then one-hit KO you. You're going to be outsped by Aerodactyl and Raikou that are both threats to you. I don't know that the Blaziken is amazing here, so I'm not super excited about either of these picks. For me, I think I'd rather it be like Fori Hariyama or something to that effect. Maybe Fori Gyarados, something like that. But Funk is taking it a different way, and as the drafter, that is fully his prerogative. So those are our picks, Cloyster and Blaziken. Zokuru here is going to retaliate with a fighter of his own. The first one that he's got here, there's been 3 of them off the board. Blaziken is not typically mentioned in that conversation, but maybe it should be. There's so many potential good fighters in this format, but with still quite a few good ones left. Zokuru is going to opt for Heracross, which a lot of people rate as the top fighter in this format, certainly an interesting conversation. And then Blastoise, valuing the Rapid Spin in particular over the option that he had here of Vaporeon, Slowbro, Slowking, any of the other choices. He thinks the most valuable asset in this case is the Rapid Spin, and he might be right because currently his team has 0 spinners versus a Spiker and 2 spinners on the other side. So trying to get a little bit of love in the Spikes war, get into it a little bit. I don't hate the Blastoise over the Vaporeon in this specific context for the spinner reason that we just discussed. Heracross is good. All the fighters are good. Where it stands in the overall, whatever you want to call this format, CALLOUS one-on-one draft as the thing he says here in the corner, I don't know. It's very nuanced, which is the beauty of this format, that what might be better or worse really does change draft to draft. But overall, where does Harris stand compared to the other fighters? Like I said, there are many of you watching this and participants in this who believe that it is the best fighter. I'm open to that. I'm not necessarily sold that it's better than Hariyama, but it's certainly a bigger offensive threat, generally speaking, than Hariyama. Obviously, cheesy belly drum sets aside. Heracross against this opponent, it seems fine. Fighters in general, good against double Reggie. Celebi on the other side, Megahorn threat to Starmie. There's some counters. There's a Skarmory over here. Salamence is a good check. Zapdos is a reasonable check. Heracross I don't think is invincible here, but general good Mon and seems at least reasonable against Funk's draft. And we still, like I said, have things like Fortress and Gyarados floating in the breeze, which I'm really surprised. And I would think that those Mons either get snatched up or don't make it through bans. But neither one is going to get taken right now. It's going to be Dusclops and Entei, actually, as the grabs for Funk. He's also declined this whole time to pick up the Umbreon or the Houndoom into the Gengar drafter, which I don't think I love either. I think I probably, by now, would have grabbed at least one of those and given Gengar nightmares about being pursued. But the picks that he did take, Dusclops and Entei, so trying to protect at least the one thing of Spikes that he's definitely going to have with Cloyster. And then the Entei, I don't know that I love the Entei pick here. I mean, again, it has obvious strength against things like Regice or whatever, but I also see a Milotic on the other side. I see a Blastoise on the other side. I see things that learn Earthquake and can be faster than you, like Aerodactyl and Dragonite on the other side. I see a Raikou on the other side that, like, you might win 1v1, but you also might not. I see a Flygon on the other side. I don't know about the Entei. I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't dislike the Mon in general. I think it's a viable late-ish, probably third-round pick in this format, generally speaking. In the context of this draft, little skeptical about the Entei. Maybe as like a bad Arcanine, you can use it as a Haracheck, but like again, why wouldn't you just take Arcanine if that's your mindset? We'll see if he gets any bang for the buck out of the Entei. Has not been that great of a performer thus far, but again, the sample size is just too small. It's fine, but I don't like it better than some of the other options that we discussed. Gyarados, Houndoom, Fortress, Umbreon. To me, those are more appealing. I mean, really more appealing than both of these, but certainly more appealing than Entei. But we're going with Entei. So Suicune is on the bench and crying that it doesn't get to participate, so both of its brethren will come represent it in this particular draft. Both Raikou and Entei have made it into the game. Alright, so we go over to Zoc for a ban here. And he's going to remove Steelix from the fold. Interesting, because he could have picked that against a double electric drafter, but it might be a protection pick against his Aerodactyl and his Raikou. He clearly does not intend to pick it, because like I said, he had the option to do so, but he knows that if he's not going to take it, which he must have his mind on something else, if he's not going to take it, it's wise to ban it, because he doesn't want his opponent to take it, so fair enough, it's out of here. Funk is going to ban Slow King, not Slow Bro, which I find interesting. Also, Vaporeon is still floating. And then another weird thing with this ban, like I said, Gyarados, Fortress, Umbreon, Houndoom. Strange to me that these things are being targeted over the Mons that I think are better, but it just goes to show you the diversity in perspectives and strategies in this format. And I dig it, and we'll see where they go. Zokuru. Hariyama out. That's fine. Again, I question, wait a minute, don't you want to pick that? Reasonable against the opposing team, but again, he must have his mind on something else, and if you're not going to pick it, I could see why he would want it gone, given the number of fighting weaknesses on his side. And Funk is going to remove Sceptile from the fold. This is another just kind of head-scratcher ban of like, well, you're really worried about your opponent picking Sceptile? You've got, what's Starmie Cloyster? I mean, what is Regirock, I guess? What is Sceptile Wreck on your side? I mean, you've got Firemons, you've got Scarm, you've got Mence, you've got Registeel. Are you really that worried about Sceptile? Just two weird bans to me from Funk's end. I can't believe what's still floating out there, and this is the stuff that you're removing. Who cares about Slowking and Sceptile? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think this is an imperfect draft, certainly from both players, and I think I liked Funk's position better after round 1 of picks, especially with the weird Porygon 2, but I don't know that I still feel that way. I think it's starting to shift in the direction of me favoring Zoc, and certainly after these picks, one's got to wonder, but steal of a lifetime getting Forighyra this late. Probably the only time in the tournament someone's going to be able to open round 3 with Forighyra. They both are normally taken well before this, and getting that kind of value this late is pretty wild, and I'm really surprised that Funk, who had numerous opportunities to just take or ban these Mons, did not do either, and is just going to give Zokuru, with a nice pretty bow on top, this very late gift. I think the tides have started to turn, and I think I like Zokuru's position a good amount better at this point. So Funk is going to respond with Miltank and also Slow Bro. So Vaporeon being passed over here, he's going to prefer the Slow Bro option, which circumstantially can be fine. A more diverse threat for sure, more sets that it can have. Miltank going to give him a potential second Heal Bell user if you want Celebi to be Heal Bell, which you probably don't. And then Miltank is usually picked as a bit of a counter to Fire and Ice because of Thick Fat and its natural bulk. So if you want to view that as a safe Moltres and Regice switch-in, which it very well may be, then that's fine. It's also probably a reasonable Jinx switch-in once something else has been put to sleep. So I don't hate the Miltank here. The Slowbro's fine. Is it better than Vaporeon? TBD. But if the plan here is to spam a bunch of Thunder Waves and make slow stuff not matter, then maybe the better offensive threat, the Slowbro, is the play. He does have a ton of Thunder Wave options here. Zapdos, Starmie, both Regis, Jolteon, Miltank. So if you're just trying to spam wave and just have the best hard-hitting threats that he can have behind those waves, then yeah, Slowbro gets the nod over Vaporeon. I can accept that pick. Zokuru here, taking a Kangaroo and a giant, supposedly extinct insect guy in Kangaskhan and Armaldo, respectively. I don't know that these are specifically targeting anything. I think he's just taking generic good mons and gluing out his teams. Kangaskhan has been a solid performer so far. It's a Wish Passer. Good against Sleep Mon since it only sleeps one turn basically because of Early Bird. And then Armaldo here is not being picked as a lax counter, which has usually been the case. But it is a threat against Celebi, and more importantly, it does have good old Rapid Spin. When there are not that many damn good spinner options remaining, he's going to have at least two options in the Fori and the Armaldo. The current count over here, we've got one Spiker and two Spinners for Zokuru, and then on the other side, it's the exact same thing, one Spiker, two Spinners for Funk, and then they both have one Ghost. As far as Pursuit, neither one of them thinks it's good. Where's the Umbreon? Where's the Houndoom? The world may never know. Funk doesn't want those Pokemon now either. He's going to opt for Tauros and Venusaur. Tauros has been solid in this. There's only so many normal resists. Zokuru has done relatively well with normal resists. He's going to have Gengar, of course, and then he's also got the newly picked Armaldo, and he's got Fori. I guess he's got Aerodactyl. I don't know that really wants to switch into Tauros, but it does resist normal, technically. But Tauros is always dangerous. I mean, your opponent might have a normal resist on the other side, usually. Even then, there's usually another move that Tauros can just click that isn't just the standard normal attack that will really hose that thing if you make the right prediction. You can't go too far wrong. Tauros is pretty mindless. It does what it does, but it's actually bulkier than you might think that it is. Intimidate is always a good ability, and it can be harder, despite what it may look like on paper. In practice, it has proven already it is sometimes harder to just switch into CB normal than you would think that it would be. Venusaur doesn't blow me away. Fine Mon. Don't know what we're targeting here. A lot of things on the other side, both outspeed and threaten it. Don't love it into Arrow, Moltres, Gyra, D-Knight, what have you. But Sleep Mons are good. Leech Seed Mons are good. Venusaur generically good. Doesn't make all the sense in the world to me in Zokuru's draft, but as just a generic, this is a good Mon that I want to pick. Sure. Zokuru is going to commit further to the Spikes War, taking what I would consider to be a late Glalie. Again, a gift that probably shouldn't have been there. Some of these other picks, Slowbro, Venusaur, Entei, I would rather have Glalie, personally. The opportunity there, ship has sailed. So he's going to go with Glalie, and then I don't like this Mon as much, but kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to find any spinner that he finds remotely viable. And in his mind, it's going to be Hitmontop. Is that better than, say, Tentacruel? I'm not convinced that it is, but it is at least playable. Hasn't been picked too much in this. I'm not a Hitmontop guy. I think it kind of blows, but he is picking up and Intimidate against a guy who's got some aggressive physical mons like Tauros, like Medicham, what have you. It does have reasonable special bulk, but it's really let down by its low base HP stat. And crucially, I think for Zokuru, the big thing is simply that it has Rapid Spin, which it does. So there you go. We are all set. We've got more spinners than we need. And it's interesting that he feels the need to have 4 Rapid Spinners. So Blastoise, Fori, Armaldo, Hitmontop, all with Rapid Spin. To me, this would indicate by taking the Hitmontop, which you're only ever taking if you're using it as a spinner, to me that means that he wants to use the Armaldo as something other than a spinner. To me that means that he views the Armaldo as like a defensive knockoff set or a Swords Dance 3 attack set or something to that effect. It does not intend to have it spin. That would be my read on the situation, but we'll see how that plays out in real time if the Armaldo even ends up making a team. On the other side, Funk is also going to make a late commitment to the Spikes War, taking Omastar, which I don't know if that's better than Smeargle as one of the Spikers remaining, but Omastar is going to be the pick, and then he's going to take Espeon as well, which is a mon that I like, but largely a lot of these late game picks for Funk and for a couple of the other drafters that I've criticized, rather than taking into consideration what Zokuru has, they kind of feel just like random good mons that I want to pick with no rhyme or reason. I don't know why Espeon would be better than like Houndoom into this draft on the other side. My answer is it wouldn't be. And then Omastar's fine. Is it better than Smeargle? Again, I really question that. I think Funk is not really paying all that much attention or caring what Zokuru is taking and is instead just taking things that he wants to take, which is certainly his prerogative, but I don't think is the optimal top-level way to play this format. And, I mean, we can wait to the end, but I think Zokuru has gotten the better end of this draft, largely because Funk is not really responding and adjusting his picks to what Zokuru is taking, and too many things have slipped through the cracks. But we're going to wrap it up in a minute. Let's just finish up here. Zokuru is going to commit to another late spiker in taking Quillfish here, so if he wants spikes on all 3 teams, he now has that option, all of which is occurring in round 3. He's got the Fori, Glalie, and Quillfish option to round this out. And then we have our first, I believe, don't quote me on that, but the first that I can remember, I think it is our first Zangoose selection. Looking immediately at the normal resists on the other side, that's the first thing that you've got to check with Zangoose. We've got Skarm, we've got Double Reggie, we've got Dusclops, we've got Kinda Sorta Cloyster, and we've got Omastar. So I don't know. I mean, does the last pick always make the team? No. Can I see Zoc not bringing the Zangoose? Yeah. But it could, I guess, be threatening. It's reasonably fast. We just talked about how Stab Normal or CB Normal can be difficult, especially with a fast mon to switch into. It also has some flail shenanigans as kind of a mini Heracross in what we know is going to be a sandless match, and also good priority moves have been denied. Breloom got cut with Mach Punch or whatever, so you might have to resort to cheese like Fake Out and Quick Attack to really be sure that you've got the Endure cheese strategies covered. I don't know that I'm convinced about Zangoose in this. I think it has situations where it can potentially be decent, but I don't think it's going to be a very consistent or reliable mon, and I don't think it's all that bulky either. Time will tell if it even makes a team, but sure, hey, Zangoose is really cool, and it's shiny, for those of you who like trivia. Its shiny is blue, which is badass. The thing looks intimidating and awesome as fuck with the blue tint. And finally, on the other end, rounding us out, Funk is going to go with Articuno, who I think has been underappreciated and is probably better in this than people give it credit for. That being said, fighters who all learn Rock Slide are everywhere, so that certainly is a bit of a nerf to Articuno, but I'm glad to see him getting some love here. Again, into Zokuru specifically, is this a fantastic pick? I'm not seeing the reason Articuno can sit in on a number of things, but I could see a lot of things from Zokuru's end that can really threaten Articuno. If he just needs a heal bell, or fine, but there were a million options for that. Articuno seems fine. I don't know that it's going to make the squad. And again, the theme of the draft is that it feels like Funk is just taking what he wants to take rather than in any way adjusting his picks to what Zokuru is taking. And that's going to be my overall takeaway. To me, I think Zokuru won this draft. I don't know that he hardcore countered Funk, but I think that Funk allowing Zokuru, between both not picking and not banning it, to have things like round 3 Fori plus Gyra is crazy. I think that letting all those spikers go late is wild. I think going the entire draft without ever picking Houndoom or Umbreon into the Gengar drafter is crazy, crazy, crazy to me. That can't possibly be right. I would have probably taken both of them, never mind just one or the other. I think that Funk didn't press the issue with fighters enough or with Firemons enough. I just don't see it. I think a lot of these picks, really starting at in the late second round onward, I think it really went off the rails. I thought Funk's draft up until mid round 2 was fine. Maybe might have changed a pick or two, but it seemed fine. But then he goes Cloyster over Fori. He takes Blaziken, Dusclops, Entei, leaving Gyarados in the breeze. He lets Zokuru, this is really weird to me too, he took Salamence at his very, very first round of picks, but then he lets Milotic slip through the second round of bans. I think that was really funky, and I don't think that was right. And then round 3, I really like Zokuru's end better. I mean, I'm not blown away by like Hitmontop or Zangoose or whatever, but like I said, from like midway round 2 onward, it just seems like a beating. I like Dragonite, Heracross, Fori, Gyra better than like the entirety of what Funk took from Cloyster downwards. So I like Zokuru's position here. His draft just seems better to me. Not blown away by the things that Funk did in the late game. Again, we play the games. Anything can happen. Let's find out. But my overall conclusion, like I said, Funk not responding enough to what Zokuru's taking. Letting the Fori Gyra through that late, not good. Letting the Milo through the bans when you're the men's drafter, not good. Never taking Houndoom Umbreon, not good. And some just weird picks in general. Entei, Venusaur into a meh draft for Venusaur, Omastar, Articuno, Those are my thoughts. I like Zokuru's position better. You guys let me know in the comments. There is a link to the Discord server in the description of this video. And when these games actually play out, you know that'll be on YouTube as well, and we can see if I'm right or wrong. Probably wrong. What else is new? But that's half the fun of it. Appreciate you guys. Headed off to work and all that good stuff. I will see you in the next video.